concerned East Penn Taxpayers Association meeting. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? If you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, could we have a moment of silence in memory of our dear colleague, Carol Allen, who recently passed away. Thank you. I'm going to start off by apologizing to our guest. This is one of the lowest turnouts we've had. One of the email blasts I sent out today, or yesterday, with 120 on it, I sent another one out with more than that. That went through, but the second one, our good friends at Google kicked it all back, including my own email to myself, as non-deliverable. So tell me they're not blocking conservatives. Anyway, our guest tonight is Dave Bradley. He's on the school board in Lehighton. I don't want to steal his thunder, so Dave, come on up and let's give a big hand. Thanks.
Okay, I probably don't need this, but we're going to find out.
Can everybody hear me okay or not?
If you don't mind.
Okay, so you can record it better too. All right, so here for a couple of reasons. My name's Dave Bradley. Like he said, I'm an activist that got way more active. Carol had asked me to come up before her passing, and because of what we helped her with at East Penn. And Carol's a good friend that came up many times to visit, and we helped in a variety of ways. And she said, one of these days you got to come down and show other people what you showed me, because it'll help, and all the other people that we've been helping. So for my career, I drive around a couple states and visit customers. And when we do that, I get to talk to a lot of people, and I get to hear a lot of their problems and stuff, just as normal conversation. And I'm pretty open, so people tend to open up to me and give me some of that information. And with that, we've learned to give advice to try to help people with what they're trying to do as a friend. So when my kids were getting older, we call this blame me, by the way, but when my kids were getting older, we realized that there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed in the world before we were going to hand our torch to our 18-year-old and say, have at it, because we're a firm believer in, we made it to 18, you know, you're an independent citizen, and go live your life and do your thing. So back when that 18-year-old was about 2, after my wife and I, you know, we moved up to the Poconos and we're raising kids by ourselves and stuff without all the family support, we finally got a weekend away to a marriage retreat. And we're like, wow, this will be fun. Newly married couple, got a 2-year-old. Grandmom's gonna watch the kid for the weekend. We're away, this is gonna be great. One of those romantic weekends. But we got there, it had nothing to do with romance. It was all troubled couples fighting everything from addiction to bad decision making to everything. And they sat in this meeting room, and you're locked there for the weekend. It's in a hotel and everything, and they fund it. And we're there for the first hour, and all the people were doing is complaining about how bad their spouses were to each other and to the group. And we're looking at it, so, wow. And we realized, I kind of nudged my wife, I said, I don't think this is the retreat we thought it was going to be. But at the same time, look at how many people blame their mom, right? So I realized when I got older and my kids got older, I was going to take the blame so that my wife wouldn't. And that's why we call this Blame Me, because I didn't take the time to write all this down until they got to 18 to give it to them so they could kind of help out. And I'm going to share it with you guys if you're so bold. And we're going to gear it towards the activism side, but you can kind of see some of the things that I was trying to give to my kids. Okay, so first of all, we wanted to look at what's the difference between an activist and a politician. Most politicians have a reason they want to run for office. They tend to be active, and they want to go do something. They want to accomplish something. So they go into office thinking they're going to get the authority to go do something. So what's the difference between the activist and the politician? It's on the paper, but anyway. I know, you don't want to, right? So the activist wants change, which we all do, right? And the politician, when he decides that he's going to feed on the stagnation because it'll get him reelected. And that's what changes. So if he fixed it, you would think he'd want to get reelected because look at all the things I fixed. But the reality is the politician runs on finances, and the finances are a function of stagnation, because if I get two people to fight against each other, they're both willing to spend money to get a politician's ear through the re-election process to not have anything happen. And a perfect example of that comes from my mother, which I'll blame for not fixing this back in the 70s, was the Senate Bill 76. Because that law goes back forever and it's never been fixed. It's like the balanced budget or any of the other things we looked at. When you look at those processes, you realize as soon as someone wants to get reelected, you got to get them out of there. So take their seat is the idea that we were talking about before. Perfect example of this is I run a small business. We were having trouble with our phone system. There was just a microcosm of how Lehighton is situated between the mountains. And what would happen is if a customer tried calling us, it would say we were out of business. Because of when they deregulated the phone companies, they bounced the phone calls around. And if the person that had a deregulated phone didn't know how to bounce them properly, they'd get a recording saying, you're not in business. You would never find this out. How do you know your phone doesn't ring, right? But luckily I was there, customer tried calling me. He says, I know you're not out of business because you were just here. So he called my cell phone and said, I can't call your phone. So then I went to his, I turned around, went back to his office, and I called my office from my cell phone and it worked. And then we picked up his phone and it didn't work. And we're trying to figure it out. So government should help with that. They didn't. But we did figure it out. And after we figured out all the problems, we went to the government and said, okay, now I have an answer for you. Here's what we need to do. And they said, that's a great answer. You know, we're having a golf outing coming up. Would you like to be a premium sponsor? And we'll take on this responsibility with you. And my wonderful attorneys here that run his campaign will help you with your problem because you have already solved it. Platinum sponsor, let me write the check. It's cheaper than an attorney. I'd love to work within my government and help you with your charity benefit. Why not? Right? Write the big check. Guess who else is a premium platinum sponsor to the golf outing? It's the other side of the argument, right? So these pieces came to my attention over the time. And we looked at the Princeton study, fast forward. The Princeton study looks at what gets accomplished and what gets passed. I'm going to skip to the future. They'll have a clip or a link to that video. But if you get a chance, look up the Princeton study on corruption. And it basically, short story, looks at the number of people that want a law to pass is 100%. Those laws should be passed 100% of the time. Does everybody agree with that? And if 100% of the people don't want it to pass, it should never pass. And that would be kind of the process. The Princeton study looked at this over decades and found out that that was not the case. And it was more likely that I'm going to use a rough number, 70% of the policies and rules that corporations wanted to get passed, they saw that line. Everybody else was just stagnant. So it shows that your input really doesn't involve politics. And when I'm making that twist of, unless you get involved in the politics side of it. And we do it a couple different ways. So we want to talk real short about the differences between a parent, a spouse, and a friend. So a parent has to judge their children, correct them, punish, discipline, or preferably reward them with their success.